welcome back. Today we're going to start with some things from Parshas Bereishis with Sefer HaYashar. And if I mentioned in the introduction to Tavshin Pei Vav about using Sefer HaYashar. Sefer HaYashar is a great Sefer, and I believe that it really illuminates some things. Some things are said by Rashi, could be Onkelos, some Midrashim, but I really find that Sefer HaYashar brings in things that we wouldn't know about. So, the Chumash, when it talks about that Adam was created, it says that he's called a nefesh chaya, right? A living being. The Sefer HaYashar adds nefesh chaya midaber, adds in that he talks, right? That we talk. Rashi does bring in, right, what separates us from the animals, right? Deya v'dibur, right? Knowledge and speech. So just to remember that, I think a lot of times the fact that we can talk, number one, we should be careful of what comes out of our mouths, but a lot of times not taking actions when we could talk things out, right? A lot of times we might take an action because we could feel hurt or something, and the person was like, I had no idea that this is how you felt about what I did. So I think, and now as we get into the story of Cain and Hevel, that we'll see somebody's like, number one, Sefer HaYashar does bring what the dialogue, what was going on with them. And number two, sometimes, if Hevel would have known that Cain was going to kill him, would he have approached the situation differently? Right? Sometimes if we would know what could happen, we might beforehand try to talk ourselves, not escalate a situation. So, and I'm not wearing my glasses because they're here. Because if I have to read, I do have progressives and they're great. I think I might need an adjustment on them because lately I've been having to, in order to read, I am once again taking my glasses off. And so instead of having to flip them, this, that, I'll just, when I look at the camera, be, even though it's blurry, I'll see that you're not seeing me blurry. Okay. I just want to mention something interesting that I was thinking that, right, because as Rashi says, the whole birth of Cain and Hevel, right, everything through creation of up and, getting kicked out of the garden, everything is all part of Ma'aseh Bereishis. It's all part of the creation of the world. Sometimes I would think, like you would think if Rashi doesn't tell us that, or that we don't have, from the Gemaras and Midrashim, that it would seem that Hashem created the world, right? We have Vaychulu, was Shabbos, and then after starts Sunday comes the Nachash, and sort of like the history of the world is now starting. That's not what happened. First of all, right, and plus we know that there were things that were created, during twilight, during Bina Shmashos. So, and Rashi tells us, right, that the birth of Cain and Hevel, which happened after the Nachash, right, this is all, right, before they got kicked out, and then they got kicked out. So I just find it, I want to delve into it more of, right, that knowing that this whole story, until they got kicked out, is part of the creation of the world. So, also a thing to take notice of is Adam, right? Adam Arishon was created, right? Hashem created him outside of Gan Eden, placed him in Gan Eden, and then when they sinned, he took him out from there. To me, I was thinking, well, why not just create him in Gan Eden, and then, he loses it? Just a thought, off the top of my head, if I was thinking possibly, I think there could be many reasons. I don't know if there are other reasons given by the Meforshim, but I was thinking I don't know, the blow of the event of losing Gan Eden, if he would have been just put like in the palace and then kicked out into like the streets, it would be very like so devastating. Like where to go from there, that you were in Gan Eden and now you're out of Gan Eden. But here he was created in outside Gan Eden. And then, he's created in this world, placed in Gan Eden, and then when, yes, it's a big loss being sent out of Gan Eden, but now, at least he's like, okay, so I'm sort of back to where I started. Yes, I had this chance for this elevation, and it's horrible, but I'm sort of back to where I began. So that's just a thought within that. It says that when Chava gave birth to Cain, that she called him Cain, that the Chumash says, Kanisi ish es Hashem. And Rashi says there that the S means with, that I acquired man with Hashem. Sefer HaYashar phrases it a little different, saying, Kanisi ish me'im Hashem. So this word me'im Hashem, from with Hashem. So I was thinking about it, why you just say im? Kanisi ish im Hashem, with Hashem. Why me'im Hashem? And I was thinking about it, and then this is a few months ago, and it dawned upon me, where else do we find that we have the word me'im? We look at Tehillim, right? Kuf Chaf Aleph 121, right, where we say Eso Einayel Heharim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. Right, I place my eyes to the mountains, and there's so much to go into the description and everything. It's not for now, right? So where is my help going to come from? So we say Ezri. David HaMelech says Ezri Me'im Hashem Osei Shemayim V'Aretz. My help comes Me'im. He could have just said Im Hashem, with, right? Sorry, not Im, sorry, May. Could have been May Hashem, Osei Shemayim V'Aretz, from Hashem. Why this Me'im, from with? So I was thinking that, yes, whenever so what does Me'im sort of imply? That it's from with. It's like a partnership together. And that's what we know, that Chava was saying in calling Cain, that there was a partnership with Hashem, her, and Adam in acquiring, that there is this partnership. So maybe that's what David HaMelech is saying, why he says Me'im Hashem and not from Hashem. Obviously, salvation comes only from Hashem. So does that mean that when I'm really stuck in a bind and I know I can't get myself out of it, which really should be all the time, right? We can't really lift a finger unless Hashem allows us to. That's what to get into. Sometimes what Rav Victor Miller Zatzal used to say, like, we should really appreciate and take time to notice all that we're able to do, and to notice and to appreciate the simple things, right? The fact that we could walk up the stairs, if we're, hopefully that we're able to, that to not take that for granted. When a lot of times, when do the simple things that come to us simple, as a simple thing easily, when do we usually end up really appreciating it and really taking time to notice? When we're not able to do those things that we're normally able to do. So Rav Victor Miller used to always stress, like, we should really take the time to really notice even like the things that come easily to us, like just to really appreciate it and not take it for granted. But I think that's why David HaMelech is saying, like, when you come to the mountains, if it would be like a little hill, you'd be like, okay, I can do that. When you come to a huge mountain and you can't get over it, so he's like, okay, I can't, there's no way I could do this on my own. Hashem, you have to do this. And Hashem can. But what does Hashem want? He still wants an action from us. He wants us to put in some hishtadlus. And that's why David HaMelech says, Me'im Hashem, from with Hashem. Right? That we know that Hashem's doing all of it, but Hashem still wants us to take an action and be a part of it. Sometimes the ishtadlis doesn't have to be this huge thing. They say, someone mentioned to me that Baal Shem Tov, in needing parnasa, once like he went to someone's house of a gavir, of a rich person, he knocked on the door, and then he walked away. And the gavir comes like, what do you need? What do you need? And he's like, no, I was just doing my hishtadlus. For the Baal Shem Tov, his hishtadlus was just to knock on the door. So, I always say someone is going for a walk, right? I'm in a barn. Someone just go for a walk and then see what happens. You never know. Maybe you bump into someone or you see something happens, but take some action. And that's what we can learn from the word me'im Hashem. And I just brought that out because Chava says she uses the word me'im Hashem. Getting into the whole Maisa with Cain and Hevel, right? So as it says in Chumash that Cain brought, right? It was actually Cain's idea first to bring a sacrifice to Hashem, and from what it's written, it's not it's not explicitly written in the Torah that Cain brought from his worst fruits. And the Vilna Gaon in the book Juggler and the King, he goes into this that Cain represents the nefesh, just the guf, the part of us that's out there just for pleasure, to enjoy this world. And Cain felt, okay, Hashem doesn't need, what does Hashem need? The best of my fruits. Hevel, on the other hand, who represents the ruach, like the heart, the emotions, the Vilna Gaon there says something interesting, that Hevel brought his korban, his sacrifice, in order to look good, out of pride, to show off. So it wasn't with the best intentions. And if you look there in the Juggler and the King, Rabbi Feldman goes through it, that where the emotions and the ruach doesn't serve the neshama, then it will get killed by the nefesh. And that's why Cain was able to overcome Hevel. And I think it's just, to me, it's an interesting thing, that because usually we say that a person should do something shalol lishma, even not for the right reason, that it can come to end up doing it for the right reason. And that's what the Vilna Gaon explains, that's why Hashem did accept Hevel's korban, because even though it wasn't done with the right intentions, it had the potential to be done with the right intentions, whereas Cain's, because he brought the worst of his produce, there was no way it could be done, there was no way to accept it, because there was no way to fix it. The only way to fix it is to bring a new korban. So within that, I think a lesson is, yes, we should always do things even if not for the right intentions. That should be with the intent that we could one day do it for the right intentions, as long as it doesn't infringe or bring embarrassment or something to someone else. And as we see that, imagine if Hevel brought this korban that was accepted. If he didn't do it, then, he showed up, Cain was showed up. And the Sefer HaYashar says, from the moment that it happened, it says here, Vayvakesh limtso elav dvar alila lahamiso, that from that point on, that Cain was looking for a pretense to kill his brother. That's how he felt from the whole thing. As in looking at this, if Hevel, would have known this, would he have done differently? So it says in the Chumash, one second, Vayomer Cain el Hevel achiv, right? It says, and Cain said to his brother, and then it just says that they were in the field, and Cain, got up and arose and killed his brother. So the question is, what did he say? So Sefer HaYashar has the conversation, right? So it says, "Vayhi miyamim vayitzu Cain veHevel achiv basada bayom lasos malachtam." Right, and it came that after days that Cain and Hevel went out to do their work. As we know, Cain worked the field, and Hevel was a shepherd. Right? Vayihyu Shneim Basada. They were both by the field. Vayi Kain Oved V'chorish Admaso. And Cain was tilling his land, and Hevel was shepherding his sheep. And it says, Vayavor Hatzon al Mikom Hacharisha Asher Charsh Kain Ba'aretz. One of Hevel's sheep trespassed onto Cain's tilled land. And that set Cain off. Vayichar l'Cain Me'od. And Cain got very mad on this matter. And Cain approached Hevel in his anger and said to him, what's with me and you? That one of your sheep is coming to graze on my land. Right? So it would seem to be that from the time that the Karbanos were brought, like there was this distance, right? Cain wanted nothing to do with his brother. Like I'll say, when we go back into it, if Hevel knew in the end that he was going to get killed by Cain, would Hevel have chose his words differently? We'll get to that at the end. Right? Vayan gam Hevel as Cain, and Hevel answered to his brother, what's with me and you? That you eat from, right? You drink from the milk of my sheep, and you wear wool clothing. So, okay. So you know what? Take off your clothes, take off your wool clothes, and pay me for the milk that you drink, that you consume. So, right, and you'll do this, and then I'll go from your land. So Cain says back to Hevel, what if I just kill you? Right? If I just kill you today, who's going to sort of require, who's going to call out, demands like payment on your blood? And what does Hevel answer? He says, Halo Elokim asher asa osanu ba'aretz hu yinkom esnik masi. Is it not Hashem who created us that he'll take vengeance on me? For who you've right, and he'll require the payment for my blood if you kill me. So I think right there, right, he struck a chord there, right? Because it brings back Cain to, right, that's the same God who did not accept his korban. And Hevel goes on, Ki Hashem hu hashovet, Hashem is the judge, he's the dayan who, right, who's going to pay, he's going to pass judgment. And now if you kill me, once again, right, that Hashem knows everything that happens. And he will judge, right? Don't think just because in a way like Hashem's presence isn't like here that you feel it. Don't think that he's here. And it says, Vahi kishmoa Cain as kol divrei Hevel achiv asher diber, when he heard all of these things that Hevel, his brother, said, that Cain's anger flared, and he went and he picked up whatever his axe, whatever he used to till the land, and he hit his brother and he killed him. Vayishpoch Cain, right? And Cain spilled the blood of his brother, and it went into the land. And it's interesting here. It says right away that Cain had remorse in that he killed his brother. I guess once he got all that anger out and he realized what he did, it says Vayis Atsev, he had atzbus, and he cried in that, and that he cried on the matter. And then Cain went and buried his brother and thing. And then Hashem comes and says, where's your brother? And he says, am I my brother's, shomer? Am I his guardian? So I think we could look at, number one, of course, we cannot take responsibility away from Cain from what he did. But I would like to just put in, this is my own way of seeing it, that as we try to teach kids social skills in yeshiva, are there ways to talk things out? So, like I mentioned earlier, if we would, if Hevel would have known from the beginning that Cain's going to kill him, would he have approached this differently? Or even within taking the approach of the Vilna Gaon, that Hevel did this without the right intentions, and in a way he showed his brother up, and I want to say that, he embarrassed his brother, maybe that's, going into it. When Cain brought his bad fruit, like I say, did his brother look out for him and give him mussar and say, why are you bringing such horrible fruit? And then Cain would say probably, well, Hashem's not going to get any benefit from it, so why shouldn't I keep the best for myself? To which Hevel could say, but wouldn't you want to show honor and thanks to Hashem, give of your best stuff, right? So that's one thing, right? He could have looked out before Cain, stumbled. But then even once this, right, when Hevel's sheep trespassed onto Cain's land, and Cain, right, in his anger came like, what's with me and you? And then all of a sudden Hevel had his retort. What if? I know I sometimes, hey, what ifs? You know what? Sometimes we have, like in Marvel comics, they have the, they have a bunch of what ifs, right? If what if different things would have happened? How would Avengers and different things happen differently? So sometimes the what if. So, okay, does the what if matter? But sometimes for us going forward, when we look to interact with our peers and strangers and different things, sometimes the what if that we ask on the different stories and the different things that happened in Chumash. So sometimes the what if doesn't change what happened there, but maybe it can help change and guide us in our lives, that it could remind us. So what if when Cain was all of a sudden, he said, what's your sheep doing on my land? And Hevel would have said, like, yo, bro, like, I see you're upset. What's going on? And then, just imagine, like, Cain could say, yeah, I'm really upset because, look, my sacrifice wasn't accepted. Yours was. And all of a sudden, they get into a conversation about it, right? To de-escalate the situation. A lot of times, right, he's carrying pain. I'm just saying, like, I could say, once again, these are sometimes the things of, was he carrying pain over the trauma, different things? I don't know. But for those of us who have had trauma, different things, sometimes we're carrying pain. So sometimes I could identify I'm not saying that if Cain would be carrying pain, which it would seem he's carrying anger, he's carrying pain. There's a painful thing there going on. So to me, it would make sense that he's carrying pain from the whole thing that happened, that Hashem rejected his korban. So when you're carrying the pain, so then, right, there's a way to diffuse it, and it brings it up, and then he could talk about it and speak out the pain and see what's going on. So I see an escalation. And then when Cain says, because sometimes we look at it as like maybe this foolish statement, or I don't know how we look at it as, Cain's answer to Hashem, am I my brother's keeper? So I could understand it if someone wasn't, if my brother showed me up and he didn't look out for me. So sort of like that mirror thing. My brother didn't look out for me. Why should I look out for him? Not saying that it's right, but just to understand maybe what could be going through Cain's mind in his response, right? His response is a telling thing. So if he's carrying the pain of his brother, once again, as I'll say, this in a way is all like speculative, is this exactly what was going on? Yes or no? It could be no. But I think within our lives, there is what to gain from that. There was one other point that I wanted to bring out. I'm just going to pause this for a moment. If I find it, I'll start it again.